Please let us welcome our Assistant Director.
Thank you very much. This manual started when we developed a political education source book, and the source book has been in use since the year 2022. The source book contains information. We brought all information that is relevant to various stakeholders under one roof. That source book was targeting the political party officials. It is also targeting the SIGs. The SIGs, we mean the women, the youth, and the persons with disability. It was also targeting the general citizenry. We want to empower the general citizenry as an office of Registrar of Political Parties. And the source book also was also targeting the aspirants and candidates. The office has found it necessary to further unpack that source book because it was quite heavy. We found it necessary to unpack it, and in unpacking, we've also found it further necessary to do a specific training manual for persons with disability. That manual is what we are here to launch, and it's also being transcribed into Braille. So we have the manual in the normal versions, and we also have the manual in Braille, and that is what we are here to launch. The manual is designed to provide people with disability in Kenya with a comprehensive understanding of the political landscape and equip them with the knowledge and skills necessary to effectively participate and engage in political processes. What does it contain? The first of it is the introductory chapter, the legal landscape in Kenya. We have a registration process chapter, how that does it take to register a political party, the membership to political party structures. We also have a chapter 6 on political participation for all, that is inclusivity chapter. We also have a chapter 7 on leadership and eligibility criteria for aspirants, political party nomination, party list, and registration of candidates, and all what it is. We have a chapter on financing of political parties. We have again a chapter on campaigns. Chapter 11 is speaking to strategic communication, public speaking, and media relations. How can you be able to be a strategic communicator when it comes to matter political space? Then we also delved in the managing the wins. After you have participated in election, how do you manage the wins, the losses, and the lessons that you'll have learned? Then we on the issues. I quickly want just to briefly highlight the aim of the chapters. This chapter is an introduction. Introduction of the importance of having the PWDs participate in political processes. It also highlights the importance of political parties. It also speaks to a brief history of political parties in Kenya and the importance of those parties and where our role is involved as PWDs. The chapter is to equip PWDs to effectively engage in shaping the future of our nation through active participation in political processes. We want to equip you so that you can effectively participate in political processes. Later you will be told how you are faring on in terms of registering in political parties and in terms of faring on in elections. So we want to equip you to further be able to engage. This chapter, this is the chapter 2 on legal landscape. It gives a highlight on legal framework surrounding political participation in Kenya. And we also want to give this with to be active and informed citizen for effective participation. Very, very important to understand our legal framework that surrounds our participation in political party processes. Comes. And we thought this is very important for us to put in this PWD manual. What are the processes of registering a political party? What are the requirements for you to be able to register a political party? It also tells you the measures that have been put in place for political parties to be on. Then finally, it tells you what are the grounds that can make a political party be suspended, registered, or a dissolution to happen. It is a guide, entire guide on any information that you'll need in case you are envisioning whereby you want to register a political party. The chapter 4 is on membership. How do you become a political party member? What is the procedure and what is the requirement? What are your rights after you have become a member of a political party? What are your rights and what are your responsibilities? Then we also touched on what has changed in terms of technology. Nowadays, the way we are engaging with political parties is through IPPMS, through e-citizen, through the SMS code, the 509. We also want to enrich and make PWDs aware of how the technology has transformed the way we are engaging political parties in Kenya, so that it become a powerful force for change, especially in advocating for your rights and the need of PWD. The next chapter is the chapter 5. I said it's in party structures. We want PWD to get to involved in this political party structure. So for you to be involved, you must understand how political parties are structured. From the bottom to the top, we also need to understand what is the internal democracy and what it takes within the political parties to political party succession. This chapter emphasizes on the role of PWD in shaping and influencing party structures. Where can you be able to plug in within the political party structures for greater inclusion and for your voices to be. The chapter 6 is on inclusion, and in inclusion we have touched as an office, and from what we know, we want to see what are the barriers that are making PWDs not to participate actively within political parties. What are some of the interventions that we can be able to apply to overcome the barriers? We are also looking at the strategy for more inclusion, and this PWD can actively engage in overcoming the barriers. We will cover the barriers and how we can be able to overcome those barriers. The chapter enables PWD to understand their role in creating a more inclusive and representative landscape. This is one chapter that will help you to understand your own role and how you can play it to be able to help in the matters inclusion. The chapter 7 is just about the leadership and eligibility criteria for aspirants. There are many people who go to elections without an idea what is required. What are the timelines? What are you required for various elective seats? This chapter has dealt with that. What are the qualifications and what can disqualify you from running a certain position even if you are aspiring? So it equips you, the aspirant and the PWD, with the knowledge and skills to navigate the world of politics. So if you have a vision of being an aspirant, this book will help you to know what you require as early as now, not towards the tail end. You need to prepare from as early as now. We also have a chapter 8 on political party nominations, the party lists, and registration of candidates. We want those people who want to participate in election to have a proper understanding of what the nomination takes, what the party list takes, and the registration of candidate process by IEBC, and all this will help you to navigate the world of candidate nomination and registration. We have seen people rushing the last minute. Understand as early as now what is required so that you are well prepared in advance. We also have an overview of the chapter. This is about financing the political party. What is this political party fund? What is its purpose? And in its purpose, you realize there is actually some amount, a 15%, which is meant for promotion of inclusion of SIGs, where PWDs are part of SIGs, which is to promote the participation of PWDs and representation in parliament and in county assembly. So we will break down the other purposes of that fund, and we are also in the same, we are also looking at ourselves as PWD. What is our role? So we give you some tips on resource mobilization that you can be able to undertake. This information about the political party funds and the role of PWD in resource mobilization, that is how we are going to empower you on. Very quickly on campaigns. This is one feared part of electoral process. We are now demystifying. Can you be able to carry a successful campaign so that your your campaign can be successful. What do you need? What does it take? We have given you step by step of attaining a success campaign. How can you bring your dream together? What is your strong and such things that will make your campaign be a success? Chapter 11 is the one that I said it deals with strategic communication, public speaking, and media relations. It is coming to tell us what is the communication. Remember, you only have a very powerful tool in communication when it matters political space. So what can you be able to do to overcome the barriers to communication? And we also have in the same chapter strategies for various disabilities. May it be visual, the hearing, the mobility, the speech, and cognitive. All those are under this chapter. And what are the strategies that you can put in place to be able to have that effective communication? We also want to delve in this chapter on political branding and marketing as well. We are also talking about the media relations. How do you relate with media and the role of social media? We are saying technology is changing. Everything is changing. So how are you transforming yourself to be able to catch up with the changes that are happening? This chapter empowers PWDs on strategic communication, to advocate for their rights, build coalitions, and influence public opinion, and navigate media landscape. If you have strategic communication, you're able to overcome that. The chapter 12 is if you have participated in election, and this came as a result of an experience of how people get defranchised after the election. So we are looking at, in this chapter, after you have participated and you have won, how do you manage your wins? We are also looking at the person who did not win. How are you going to manage the losses? Those people who participated. We want to see in this chapter how effectively can you be able to manage the losses, and then what do you do with lessons learned? Do you sit and take an audit of what happened so that if you are participating next time, you will not do the same thing and get the same results? So you need to sit and audit. This chapter which is guiding us all that we need to do with after the elections and the wins. This chapter guides on navigating the aftermath of election and the need to continued advocacy for inclusion. I believe the PWDs who participate in election have a purpose. So if lost, what is your next course? Do you stop advocating for inclusion, or do you continue, and how do you continue advocating for inclusion? The chapter is the least important. It is equally important, and it is speaking to issues, the opportunities for PWDs in politics. This chapter have taken a look at some of the issues which continues to affect politics in the future. It outlines challenges and opportunities that come with emerging issues. Are you aware of the emerging issues that affect politics in the future? So this is a chapter where you internalize, and then you get to understand what are the challenges. And if there is a challenge, there is always an opportunity for you to internalize. How can we be able to utilize the opportunity for your benefit? That is the 13 chapters that are contained in this manual. This being a training manual, we have really used a lot of methodologies to make it very simple, very participatory, and very impactful. We have used brainstorming sessions, the role play, we have used scenario analysis, we are also using interactive exercises, discussion questions. If you interact with the manual, you will see how we have been able to cover it all so that it can be used by all the stakeholders. That brings me to the end of that presentation. Thank you very much.
At this juncture, allow me to invite our Assistant Registrar.
Thank you very much, Director Kinovia. Our chief guest, Honorable Senator Dr. Isaac Maura, who is also the government spokesperson. The Registrar of Political Parties, leaders of political parties present here, representatives of partners who are also represented here, very many of them, representatives of persons with disabilities represented here, staff of RPP, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The manual is actually a product of a broader initiative that the office has started with the production of the political education sourcebook. That is, you've been told by my colleague. And it is a comprehensive guide for persons with disabilities to ensure that they are able to participate in political processes and take a role and leadership within the political sphere. As we launch and as I invite the first speaker to share with us, I want us to be reminded of the wisdom of Mahatma Gandhi when he said the true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members. This manual actually, with a theme from the sidelines to the center stage, speaks directly to that aspiration. So feel comfortable, feel at home, and let's engage. I want to take this opportunity now to invite the first speaker. I don't know whether Samson has arrived because we were expecting him from the Kenya Society for the Blind. Do you have Samson Waweru? All right, we are still expecting him. The next speaker is going to be Salin Duta, the representative of the United Disabled Persons of Kenya. Please, let's be brief. We are going to give 3 minutes to each of the speakers.
Good morning. Our hosts, the Office of Registrar of Political Parties, the chief guest, Dr. Isaac Mwaura, who is the government man, all persons with disabilities present here, all representatives of organizations of persons with disabilities, all representatives of political parties, all invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, on behalf of the United Disabled Persons of Kenya, commend the ORPP for this initiative. Really a first of its kind, coming up with a manual of this nature demonstrates that really you're making decisions based on I'll show you why. So as compared to previous election cycle, the 2022 election cycle recorded a significant interest. Number of persons with disabilities who participated in the electoral process, whether they are running for various positions, whether they were voters, whether they were, participating as election staff through the IEBC, or whether they were observing elections. So, as organizations with disabilities, we normally do an audit on the extent of how persons with disabilities engage in election process. And you'll notice that this increase during the last election cycle was due to largely a lot of education that was conducted and a lot of political outreach, both by the state and also the non-state actors, including organizations of persons with disabilities ourselves. I just wanted to share with you a statistic just to show this increase. According to the IEBC, the number of registered voters with disabilities increased during the last election cycle. That is 8.7% of total registered voters, or 1.8 million people were registered as voters with various disabilities. So this was a considerable margin as compared to various election cycle. Also, persons with disabilities showed a lot of interest in participating in political parties. We saw a number of political parties, at least 14 of them, really activated, their disability leagues. Political parties also included considerable number of persons with disabilities on their party nomination lists, but we know where the problems is. So, however, due to legal and other loopholes, this did not translate to actual nomination of many persons with disabilities. And very sadly, 20 county assemblies, as we speak now, do not have representation of persons with disabilities. So because of this high interest and involvement in the election and political process, the number of persons with disabilities who participated as aspirants in party primaries and who eventually contested for the political positions was minimal. That was less than 2% if you compare to total aspirants. So this impacted negatively on the overall representation of persons with disabilities in the political process. The importance of this manual, as has been explained by the Assistant Director at ORPP, is that it will bring, it will try and, fill the information gap, that often many persons with disabilities face during the election cycle and during engaging with political parties. So we are really keen, on this training manual. It could be used as a tool to empower persons with disabilities and to sensitize them on their rights, with regards to political participation. And we really had the outline here. It looks like a very rich outline and a good content that persons with disabilities, either vying for various positions or also as voters, what they need to know. Let me say that our call as organizations of persons with disabilities, our call as UDPK is that let us work together. Yeah? Let us pick the lessons that we saw in the last election cycle. Let us come together. And we really want to commend the ORPP, the Registrar. We really commend your office because you have also reached out to us as OPDs, wanting to know how can we work together. And this is a good first step. Let us create a critical mass. All these persons with disabilities who have shown interest, vying for so many different positions, and in fact I see so many of them here. Let's create that critical mass and be very intentional and work together as stakeholders. We want to see more Mwaoras, in those high decision-making positions. In the next election cycle, we don't want to hear any county have a representative in the county assembly who is representing interests of persons with disabilities. I could say a lot, but I want to say that this is a very commendable effort. Let's pull together, let's work together from here on to make sure that we have effective representation of persons with disabilities in political parties, that disability leagues are not just there to check a box for people with disabilities, that these leagues are effectively funded, that persons with disabilities really make their mark in political parties. Thank you so much for listening to me. Good day.
An honor for us as Hans Seidel Foundation to be part of today's launch of the manual and the handbook for people with disabilities. As a result of quite a long journey, we are going together with the ORPP already as Hans Seidel Foundation. The Office of the Registrar of Political Parties is really going the extra mile to support and guarantee inclusion of special interest groups, women, youth, and people with disability into the political process. For us, Hans Seidel organization is an organization from Germany close to a political party called the Christian Social Union. So we are experts when it comes to party politics and how parties behave. And in that sense, Germany is very similar to Kenya. Both countries are party democracies. It is very difficult to achieve influence outside of political parties, both in Germany and in Kenya. But with that influence, with that significance of political parties, of course, comes a lot of responsibility. And we are very happy that together with the ORPP, we can try to support all that, how political parties should be organized, especially being inclusive, being transparent, and being accountable. Not least for special interest groups, and not least of which, of course, people with disabilities. We just heard that people with disabilities were almost 9% of the registered voters in the last election. That means you are a significant interest group and you are a significant representation of the will of the people of Kenya. And that's what political parties are there for. They are instruments to collect, to act on the political will of the people of Kenya. And that's why the inclusion of people with disabilities in political parties is so important for us and for ORPP as well, which we are again happy to support in the original source book of political education, which already has been mentioned, and also in today's launch of the political handbook for people with disabilities. As I heard, that's the first of its kind, the handbook itself, and its Braille version, which we are again very happy to launch today and to support that to make it even more accessible for people with disabilities. Anastasia shortly explained the content of the book. She was mentioning also, I think it was chapter 11, if I'm not mistaken, about how to register a political party. And we had discussions with the registrar and with the assistant registrars about how people with disabilities should be represented. Should there be a specially dedicated party for you? Or should you be represented in the parties which already exist? And the answer, of course, is clear, both. There could and there should be parties with a clear focus to represent the interests of people with disability. But of course, your interests as almost 10% of the voters should be represented in all political parties which are there to be totally represented in parliament, in county assemblies, and in the parties itself, and the decision-making process of the needs.
First, I want to appreciate the steps ORPP has done so far. From the first time I met with the registrar, I found in her a very soft spot for persons with disabilities, and I really appreciate that. It's not easy, but for me, I really want to appreciate that even what is happening today is a step in the right direction on inclusion of persons with disabilities in the entire electoral process, which culminates into representation of persons with disabilities as it was envisioned in the Constitution under the Bill of Rights, Article number 54. Having said that, from the National Council of Persons with Disabilities, what we want to encourage is that there is, as a council, we have tried to make sure that the registration of persons with disabilities becomes easier and faster. Experience has been that at the tail end of the electoral process, we realize that most people come to register as persons with disabilities for purposes of being considered in the political party's representation. So as a council, we have been able to make sure that registration has been made easier. It's on eCitizen. You do self-registration, and data has been linked to all government institutions. And our discussion has been with the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties and IEBC, that how can we be able to link our database so that when a person registers as a person with a disability in a political party, IEBC and ORPP can be able to pick data from our database. They can confirm the status, the type of disability that the person has, and whether they are registered as persons with disabilities by the National Council of Persons with Disabilities. Our hope is that we need to see young people with disabilities picking up the mantle. I've been at the council for 17 years, and I've been able to see certain Emora here, Iyala, a member of parliament, David Olesankok, the two of them being vocal and being the voice for persons with disabilities. So as we launch the training manual today, I appeal to all political parties that we shall have a face of persons with disabilities, enable them, create a database that is able to link with our database so that we can be able to enjoy what has been provided for us. So for the on behalf of the National Council of Persons with Disabilities, we join in this launch. It creates a platform. It gives us a way how to work together as persons with disabilities. And as I always say, that we who are already persons with disabilities, we need to create a space, create a platform, an avenue for inclusion of persons with disabilities with an understanding that disability is a club that anyone can join at any time in life. And if you do analysis of the vocal people with disabilities, maybe apart from Senator Maura and David Ole Sankok, you will realize that most of them that are vocal are those who join disability later in life. Later in life, it's when it dawns on them that they didn't work to make sure that there are structures, there are systems that can easily accommodate them when they join a disability. So for political parties that are here, as my colleague has said, Sally, that let us not be there only to tick the boxes, but let us be there to make sure that disability issues are being addressed and are being respected. So the Council works with the Organization of Persons with Disabilities, under IEBC, we are members of the Disability Inclusion Coordinating Committees, and we shall continue working together. And as I wind up, encourage persons with disabilities to register as persons with disabilities on the new platform, the eCitizen platform, because this is a platform that will be linked in the near future with the ORAPP, with the IEBC, a single database where data will be shared. With those so many remarks, God bless you, and we will join in this launch. Thank you.
I'll start by congratulating the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties for coming up with this very important document. And as some speakers have said, it's the first one of its kind that is specifically targeting people with disabilities. For those who may not know, the Registrar was once a member of the staff in the Commission, and I can see, as was explained about the manual, there is a deep issues of elections on the participation of people with disabilities in registration, in registering as voters, and there is an issue, a part on the requirements and qualifications to participate in elections as candidates. So that one, as a commission, we view as a collaboration, and it is in a way also enhancing our voter education messages. Again, we congratulate for this manual, because it is going to inform the people with disabilities and will effectively participate in elections. So we as a commission, we embrace such initiatives, and we are welcome to work with the Registrar and any other institution that participates in informing people with disabilities and the general voters on matters of elections. We are ready to collaborate with them and work towards assisting Kenyans to realize their rights. Finally, we also request the ORPP office to share with us this particular manual so that we can also use them to enhance our voter education messages as we work together with you. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
My name is Nicodemus Makau. I'm the chair for the ODM Disability League in Stare, and I feel so excited to see the progress of the political parties when it comes to persons with disability. This is the journey we have reached as persons with disabilities. Also, I would like to say thank you also to the OPPs, the organizations for the persons with disability. For this journey, we have moved together. not only to fight the war, but to bring persons with disability in the table for the building of our nation as a country, Kenya. I feel excited to see people sitting here so that we may launch the political education training manual for persons with disability. This is a big achievement as we long for to bring the total change and create what it matters to us, persons with disability. As one of our person from UDPK has said, she has said that we don't pick the box when it comes to political parties. We need our voices to be heard in all diversity in our country. I thank you for this big opportunity. As we launch it, let us move and achieve this great work we are doing as a team. Be blessed.
I'm a person with disability, chairing UDA, chairperson for person with disability in UDA, Chama Tawala. My experience in political party. One thing I want to appreciate ORPP. Thank you for this program, for this book, so that we can learn. It is very important for persons with disability because we have been participating in political parties because most of persons with disability, when it comes to voter indication, we don't have information how to register as a voter. All this manual will be able to be indicated and will be able to bring persons with disability to participate in political party process. Not only participating, but also I hope through this manual, the book, political party will become more inclusive to persons with disability. Not just registering and bringing the members, but also to be inclusive to persons with disability in decision-making table. Because if we do that, if we are not in the table, we are in the menu. It's high time political parties include persons with disability in decision-making table. Not only just registering and going to vote. Also to add something about SIG. ORP, you need to look at this word SIG. Why do I use this SIG? Most time, people with disability, like a deaf person, when it comes to, when we focus on SIG, it's youth, women, and minority. We forget about persons with disability. This time, the word SIG also need to be inclusive of persons with disability. When you look at the nominations of persons with disability in most counties, people with disability are missing because of SIG. They choose youth, minority, and then women. They forget about people with disability. We want to see a big change, a big difference. Also, we need to have persons with disability fully represented in political party, fully participating, being nominated at county level. I don't have much to say. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Nimesimama hapa kama mlemavu, lakini zaidi ya kuwa mlemavu, mimi ni mwanasiasa. I am a politician, and as a politician, I am the National Vice Chairman of the Communist Party of Kenya. And I'm very happy because of the work that ORPP has done, in terms of seem to it that PWDs begin to come at the center of leadership. Sometimes we may complain a lot in terms of where we are as PWDs. But it is also true, out of our own effort na push as PWDs, na kushikwa mikono hapa na pale na watu kama Ngek, watu kama Civil Foundation na foundation zingine, ya kwa tumekaribia katikati. That's why today I can sit here, I can stand here and speak as a member, a high-ranking member of this party of Kenya. I'm not on the menu. Okay? Hatuko menu tena. Sasa tumeingia pale kwa meza, tunapanga nini itapikwa, si ndio? So from in terms of this, we have looked at the man in one of the meetings, and I can tell you, for PWDs who are members of leagues, please use this manual to empower PWD. Unajua ni kukataa kuingia vyama vya siasa. A lot of us are outside there complaining, about how political parties treat us. But until we join political parties, we never have power to do anything. So I encourage you, the leaders of the league, recruit people into political parties. Let's use all avenues to get our people into political parties so that we get power. Power ni grab, sino? Power ni kupigania. Hatuwezi kupigania tukiwa nje ya chama. And with that, I think I want to commend the office of the Registrar of Political Parties and everybody who has been in this process. Na niwawishie a very good day. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I rise here to bring to your attention the question of reviewing provisions within the Constitution that violate and in essence limit the political rights of persons of unsound mind. This is a huge population that many a times it's forgotten amongst persons with disabilities, because we label them that they are mad, but that is not true. These people can actually make sound decisions and engage in democratic processes within our country. So I laud the efforts this morning of Madam Registrar, maybe coming from the academia, issues of whatever you're going to do, the launch this morning, are matters that I take pride in. I know last time you invited us when you were doing the popular version of the Political Parties Act. So this is a magnificent piece of work. Asante sana.
It gives me great pleasure in absentia to join you here today during the launch of what I consider to be a very important document in the inclusion of the special interest groups, especially persons with disability in the country. Persons with disability form a significant segment of the country, and therefore their concern, burdens, and challenges should be ours too as a society. The National Gender and Equality Commission is mandated to promote gender equality and freedom from discrimination. Over time, the Commission has taken various measures aimed at promoting political representation and inclusion of persons with disability, including auditing of list of political parties nominees submitted to contest in general and by-elections, participating as a friend of the court to ensure persons with disability are equitably represented in Parliament and the County Assembly. In line with the aforementioned mandate that the Commission monitored the participation and engagement of special interest group in the last 3 general elections since 2010 Constitution, including registration, voter education, which is, I think, is the hallmark of our being here today, political parties nomination processes, administration, logistic related to the pooling, tallying, announcement
of the results and post-polling activities. Ladies and gentlemen, persons with disability in Kenya have not enjoyed and exercised their political rights equitably, even though they constitute a significant population. Since the promulgation of the Constitution of Kenya in 2010, a lot of effort has been directed at putting in place a legislative mechanism to ensure that not more than 2/3 of the same gender comprise Parliament and County Assembly. However, little effort has been made to ensure enactation to give effect to Article 100 will ensure equitable representation of persons with disabilities among other special interest groups. To guarantee the full participation and inclusion of persons with disabilities in political processes, it is instructive that the constitutional imperatives guaranteeing equality and inclusion are backed by sound legislation, administrative rules, regulations, and guidelines. Ladies and gentlemen, the electioneering process does not start during voting. It starts from the time voter education, voter registration, political party primaries, and campaign, and during the day of actual voting. It is our submission that for an inclusive electoral process, it must start right. Hence the significance of the document which is just about to be launched, and which I look forward to interacting with, as it touches on a very significant population of this country and a key constituents of the National Gender and Equality Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, the National Gender and Equality Commission assure you of our continued commitment for the inclusion of persons with disability and other special interest groups in the country. Thank you. That is the speech of our CEO, Madam Dr. Purity Ngina. 1 minute as a person with disability, and this one I'm not representing National Gender and Equality Commission, but I'm talking on my own behalf as a person with disability. I've made this suggestion several times to people I've met, that I think our current system for the representation of persons with disability, it is not working for us. And I've always tried to persuade a few of my friends in Parliament that why can't we adopt the Ugandan system? Why can't persons with disability congregate at ward level, then we elect a representative to represent at the ward level? Why can't we think of converging at the constituency level, then elect maybe 2 persons with disability, male and female, to represent at the National Assembly? Same to the Senate. I don't know. It is something that I think we need of. And my one point I want to pass to the Registrar of Political Parties. It is good to have such manual, but are there mechanisms that we are going to punish political parties that does not adhere to the rule? Can we tie political party funding to complete adherence to the inclusion of special interest group, so that if you don't comply 100%, what are the sanctions? Are we just going to have a document which is good and there are no penalties for non-compliance? I think it is something we need to think about. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are almost coming to the end, and we want to appreciate each and every one of you for your patience, and for the speakers who have spoken for your contribution to this very important space. As I've said earlier, at ORPP, we believe that inclusion is not a matter of charity, but it is a fundamental human right. And that's according to the United Nations. So let us join, all of us, let's join hands, and together, let's move PWDs from the sidelines to the center stage of Kenya's political process. That is the message we are sending home today. At this juncture, allow me to take this singular honor, because we are coming towards the end, to invite the Registrar of Political Parties.
Our guest of honor, Honorable Dr. Senator Mwaura and the government spokesperson, Hans Seidel Foundation, Mr. Daniel. Forgive me if I'm not able to mention the next name. Mr. Ali, the Assistant Registrar, who has also done very well in directing the program today. All the speakers of today's meeting, which you have given very good sentiment. I want to really thank you for gracing our occasion and making all the remarks. The OLPP staff present today, the members of political parties who are the key stakeholders in this process, and the reason why we exist as an institution, and the reason why we are also making this manual to affect processes within political parties, the civil society organization, government institution represented here today, all participants, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's my singular honor to really thank you for finding time to come and grace this occasion and participate in the occasion of the launch of the manual. The gathering of various stakeholders today in the launch of this manual signifies a collective commitment to ensuring that the voices and the concerns of persons with disability are not only heard, but also actively represented within the political landscape of our country. I acknowledge the effort being made by various other stakeholders in the strengthening disability and inclusion in various spheres of life, including within electoral and political processes. And I know we are also working with various stakeholders on many other initiatives that affect disability. Ladies and gentlemen, participation of persons with disability in political parties and public life is a right provided by law. When PWD participate in political and public life, their voice is heard and reflected in policy and decision making. Kenya, like many other nations, have made strides towards inclusivity. Yet much remains to be done, particularly in the realm of political representations for persons with disability as well as other special interest groups. I want to identify with the sentiment of one of the person with disability who have actually said sometimes we lump people with disability together. When we say special interest groups, we are not also able to isolate and address their specific matters because we have lumped them together. And I think it's the high time we think of strategic initiatives that we shall do to ensure that they are really not lumped together and then their issues are lost. Especially when we have 21 counties without representation of persons with disability, it is the high time we also think on how we look at the legal framework. I know IBC try as much as possible to be inclusive when they are doing the party list. But without the enabling law to close that gap, then we still have some counties that are really, political parties have not forwarded the names of a person with disability to be included during the process, or rather on how the party lists have been stipulated and planned. I think it's an issue we really need to look. Ladies and gentlemen, with common understanding that the exclusion of persons with disability from various aspects of life typically stems from a combination of factors rather than a single source. These factors are interconnected and mutually reinforcing, creating complex barriers to inclusion. Some common contributors to exclusion include physical, economic, social, legal, policy, attitudinal, and cultural barriers, among many other things. Part of it, starting out, is stereotype and stigma. And I think as we focus on training about inclusion in the political process, we must deal with attitudes and we must deal with barriers that relate to stereotypes. And For that, we shall be bringing all of us together to make significant contribution on the journey of inclusion. While regulation can address certain aspects of inclusion, such as ensuring fair representation in political party structures, which we really try to enforce, it is not sufficient on its own to achieve full inclusion. Thus, many stakeholders must be involved. I therefore call upon all the stakeholders working in the disability sector. We come together and look for, beyond ticking the box of compliance, what is it that we can do together to ensure meaningful participation. The current 2024 statistics from the Office of Registrar of Political Parties shows that only less than 1% of persons with disability are registered as members of political parties. This in itself, it's an exclusion, and therefore we need to mobilize as many members so that we include many members to be registered as members of political parties, because political processes start with a person being a member of a political party, and for that reason, then as many people should be registered as members of political parties. Statistics also in the IBC register, and it was also stipulated here, we have less than 10% of all the registered people being person with disability. And we all know that the census statistic had a problem, given that when IBC register is talking about of around 1 point something, the census about 0.9, meaning we need to harmonize the numbers as far as inclusion of person with disability is concerned. ORPP, we play a significant role in regulating political parties to ensure compliance with the law. In our effort to make parties to become very inclusive, that is why we have come up with such a program that we are discussing today. Through capacity building programs for party leadership and person with disability, review of party constitution, policy work plan, nomination rules, we shall ensure that the law is followed. One of the issues that is very significant to us is the performance of the person with disability rigs within political parties. It is expected that any person interested in participating in elections should actually be a member of the disability leagues. And the political parties are called upon to ensure that the disability leagues are working and they are responsive to the needs of persons with disability, especially those ones who want to participate in the electoral process. The Office of Registrar, as it was said by the manager, came up with a political parties education source book. It is from this source book that we have extracted issues that are to affect the person with disability, and intentionally want to run a program that are specifically related to persons with disability. Training manual, the one we are launching today, will help us see through the process and help persons with disability who want to participate to understand A to Z about participation in political parties and after that elections. So I call upon you to really engage with the manual and also use the manual to train the disability leagues and the persons who are interested in running for elections. The training must be deliberate, getting the people must be deliberate, so that we bring everybody to the table. Ladies and gentlemen, I also want to note that this manual is going to equip specific political parties with tools to engage its own members, ensuring even those people who are not living with disability are very clear on issues that affect persons with disability. That means every person, whether you have disability or not, should actually be very conscious of issues to do with persons with disability. because we are the one who enable the processes. And therefore, this manual also aims to build a political culture where inclusivity is the norm, not exception. As a call for action, I urge all political leaders and party members and other stakeholders to commit to using this manual. We also call upon stakeholders to work together to remove barriers and create an environment where everyone has the opportunity and contribute to for persons with disability. In conclusion, I want to emphasize that today's launch is not just a formality, it's a pivotal moment for our political landscape. Together, we can foster a future where persons with disability not only participate in politics but thrive within it. As we look to the future, let us envision a Kenya where every individual, regardless of their abilities, have the opportunity to contribute to the political life of our nation. Our clarion call to all stakeholders: let us build a political landscape that is reflect the rich diversity of our society and serve the interest of all the us, including persons with disability. Let us affirm our commitment to the principles of equality, equity, justice, and dignity to all. Let us work together to build a more inclusive and vibrant democracy for generations to come. And moving forward, it is important to know that we shall be calling, probably from political parties and working in the sector, as we start a training program, probably of a few people that we shall work with who are interested in learning for the general election and their person with disability. The one that already have shown demonstrated commitment, so that we train them using this manual as one of the cohort, and we see, can we, through this training, increase participation and also persons that shall be elected within the process. So when we call upon you, kindly give us those people, you know that they have the high chance of going all the way to the ballot and also participating and becoming winners in elections. So we shall be calling that, so that we start kind of a training that will help us. We may not have so many people because of the limited funds, but I know for sure with the help, and we shall be doing that in partnership with the Hans Seidel Foundation, so that we have the critical mass that comes on board in 2027 as an initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me therefore to thank you for your commitment to this cause, and I really to participate consciously in promoting of the persons with disability, especially in in politics and in elections. Let us move forward together towards a more inclusive democracy. Thank you very much, and our trainings and every person who shall participate, we shall have more numbers in the ballot paper and also as elected leaders. I think I now want to introduce our chief guest of honor, Mr. and Dr. Mwaura has been a friend from the sector. At one point, we even made political primaries bill, which actually went all the way to Senate, to Parliament and all that. When it could not see the light of day, we took some of the material actually and put in the Political Parties Act Amendment 2022. Yeah, we took significant of the bill and some of it we put there, but not yet there. Because part of the issues of party nomination is what differentiates the person with disability, and we want to revive that so that we make sure that then we bring on board. Honorable Mwaura, as a very astute politician, very experienced in politics and now in government, I want to appreciate that you found time to come and join us for this launch, and we know your commitment as far as disability is concerned, and your international and local participation in things that relates to persons with disability is well recognized. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, allow me be upstanding as we welcome Senator Dr. Maora, the government spokesman, and our chief guest today. Thank you very much. And we must dance to that tune a bit before.
So my name is Isaac Maora, and I say I am born again. Bwana asifiwe. It's important to say that. I know, Madam Registrar, we talk a lot about these issues. So allow me to give my remarks. First, I want to recognize all the protocols, starting with Kenya Society for the Blind, who are here represented by my friend Alex Kaluyu, with whom we started together the Albinism Society of Kenya. And I'm happy to hear you are a NEC member of a political party. I didn't know you are political. I can see where you are moving. Then Salin Duta, who I've also worked together with at the African Union of the Blind, who is now the CEO of the United Disabled Persons of Kenya, my first employer. These are the people who gave me my first job as a program officer for Uraya. I also had Uraya somewhere there. Then Hans Seidel Foundation, Mr. Daniel Seiberling, for this great work that you're doing in partnership, and I'm sure we can come up with that program that we talked about of a cohort like PLDP or PLGP for those with disabilities. The National Council for Persons with Disabilities, represented by Mr. Isaac Manyonge, my namesake, and who also took over from me in disability mainstreaming, and also having served there as a board member, and also the first one to be the communications officer for that organization. And then we have the National Gender and Equality Commission. They don't like to be called NGEC, they like to be called NGEC. They say NGEC is derogatory. Gender and Equality Commission. So it is gender and then equality, not gender equality. Gender and Equality Commission, led by my good brother Joshua, very eloquent speaker. And I must also confess, it's good I mention these things, that we are the ones who drafted the bill to establish that commission under Article 59, together with Dr. Mwatha, Regina Mwatha, and Naomi Shaban, and Joe Kindongo. And Ibuta Kibaya. IEBC, our independent arbiter for the political contestation process, led by Mr. Benjamin. The Kadika, which is also my child. I don't know why they are not here, but I thought I had seen Timothy Aseka or some MCA, the MCAs. This is the Disability Caucus, and also the Kenya Disability Parliamentary Association, which also I founded in collaboration with the National Democratic Institute, and all of the people who are here, members of the Diplomatic Corps, the members of the media, civil society organizations, and all of the political parties that are represented here. The only political party that I've not heard being mentioned is Persons with Disabilities Political Party of Kenya. I don't know whether we need to have one. Because there are quite a number of parties here, but maybe that would also be exclusionist. But I'm very happy to see that we have so many of you who are claiming that title of being the chair or the leader of a disability caucus or a NEC member in a political party. Because I was actually the first in the history of Kenya to be a NEC member of a political party, Secretary for Disability Affairs within ODM. So for me, it's a very great joy, because that means many politicians are being nurtured to take up the political space. Let's clap for ourselves for that. So allow me to do two things. First, before we launch, I'll read a speech that is formal, then I'll make some few remarks, and then we can launch. Distinguished guests, fellow leaders, members of the disability community, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is with great honor that I stand before you here today at this pivotal moment in our democratic journey as we launch the political party's Persons with Disabilities Manual, the first in the history of the Republic of Kenya. Let's clap for that. So Registrar, congratulations. It has never happened before. We may have bits and pieces, as Mudomi said, but today we have a manual that can be the Bible of how to ensure political education for persons with disabilities in Kenya. This is more than just a document. It is a guide to inclusion, a symbol for progress, and a testament to our collective resolve to make Kenya's political landscape accessible to all citizens. Around 1 billion people in the world live with some form of disability. This is nearly 15% of the global population. We must recognize that their rights, like those of any other citizen, are integral to our democratic processes. Their inclusion is not only a moral imperative, but a legal obligation under international law, like the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. I speak here today knowing that our journey to inclusive politics is grounded on the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, but also your individual and collective activism. This landmark document, therefore, aggregates our experiences as persons with disabilities and what we know of politics. As they say, politics organizes society. Corruption disorganizes politics. This document is really an enabler of guaranteeing our human rights and fundamental freedoms as enshrined in the CRPD, Article 29. It ensures that we live with dignity, participate in society fully, and be treated as equal partners or Kenyans or people under the law. This particular Article 29 of the CRPD emphasizes that persons with disabilities have the right to take part in political processes and to stand for elections. This includes the right to vote as well, and also to ensure that there is no discrimination in such processes. When persons with disabilities participate in politics, they do contribute to building a world that is fairer and more accessible to everyone. Their unique perspective helps in creating policies that reflect the true diversity of society and foster inclusive governance. I look forward to a day that Kenyans will elect a person with disability as the President of the Republic of Kenya. It is possible. It is possible, my good brothers and sisters. Let us not undermine ourselves. Let us not look and say we are just part of the appendage. We have what it takes to lead not only the issues of persons with disabilities, but also to ensure that we provide alternative models and ways of doing things for all Kenyans across board. That is not going to happen by mere wishful thinking. It is going to come from selflessly joining political parties, but also not just sitting there and titles, but also actively running for elections in those political parties. Some of you remember how I ran to be Deputy SG of ODM in the now all too famous Men in Black Kasarani. Yeah, you remember? They say the white man with the men in black. But also to run for offices. And you also remember I was the first person with albinism to run for a parliamentary seat in the Republic of Kenya. Kenya is not an exception. We cannot hope to build a fair, just and democratic society if any group is left behind. Our contribution to the Constitution of Kenya was to ensure that we secure our own representation in Parliament, something that had not happened prior to the 2013 elections. Let's clap for ourselves for that. Indeed, we participated in making the Constitution, and I was privileged to be in the reference group, to ensure that we have equality and non-discrimination, Article 5 of the CRPD, and in particular, that we have clauses or articles like Article 27 on non-discrimination as well, Article 54 that is specific to persons with disabilities, Article 81 that calls for fair representation of PWDs, and also Article 97, 98 which guarantee our seats in Parliament, Article 100 which is yet to be fully implemented, and Article 177 that secures a representation in county assemblies. We have mentioned 18 times in the current constitution. Yet, we are yet to achieve that which we want to achieve. So, there is a lot of work to be done. And I'm happy to see Owino, who was recently the chair of USNAC, students now transition into KEDIPA, together with Brenda, who is newly employed at Parliament there, being the secretariat members of KEDIPA. So we have a lot of work to do in terms of the bills to pass, but also not just bills, to articulate on the floor of the House that which needs to be done for persons with disabilities. Currently, there are about 3 bills in Parliament: the Kenya Sign Language Bill, Learners with Disabilities Bill, and one of them that has been there since 2007 called the Persons with Disabilities Bill, that keeps on going back and forth. Part of the reason is because we are also the ones who make it not to pass. If these ones are enacted or reviewed, they are going to ensure greater participation of persons with disabilities in society, and this includes politics. Let us remember that the inclusion of persons with disabilities in politics is not a favor, but a right. It is not a favor, it's a right. It is enshrined in both the national and international conventions. It's a jus cogens, it's an international customary law, those of us who understand the human rights language. And so therefore, we must cascade it all of the way to the municipal level. So the importance of political inclusion for PWDs is basically to ensure that whatever decisions that are made, they also espouse the needs and aspirations and concerns of those of us with disabilities. Our voices have for long been silenced by physical barriers, discriminatory practices, and lack of supportive frameworks. Yet we know for sure that the strength of any democracy lies in inclusivity, how well it is represented in terms of the diversity of the people. So this manual that we are launching today is designed to bridge the gap between legislation and practical implementation, between the Constitution and actual facts on the ground, so that we speak to the hearts and minds of the people, and indeed also the stomach. Because politics is about he who gets what, where, and how. Politics is the informal that constitutes the formal. It serves as a comprehensive resource for political parties, guiding them on how to make their processes, structures, and policies more inclusive, from accessible voting booths to providing Kenya Sign Language interpreters at party meetings and other nitty-gritties where the rubber meets the road. This manual outlines specific actions that parties can take to ensure that persons with disabilities are not only included, but are also active participants in shaping the future of our country. It provides insights on recruiting and retaining persons with disabilities at party level, but also for them to become party members. But not just party members, but also party leaders. The need for accessible campaign platforms and also language, so that they are not demeaned or referred to as objects of pity, or those who cannot participate because they cannot hear or see. That has been very rampant in our political jargon. How to create policies that genuinely reflect the need for disability community inclusion. Most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, this manual is critical because it highlights the role of the political parties and governments that are formed out of political parties, and the role of the civil society as a watchdog play in order to ensure that we achieve this together. I am particularly pleased because this manual is a reflection of the many voices represented in this room and beyond, our own aspirations, but most importantly, our own collective vision for a better Kenya. It is a tool that recognizes that there is no better Kenya without the inclusion of persons with disabilities, and that there is no single right that can be achieved when you actually fail to consider the rights of persons with disabilities. When persons with disabilities fully participate, they reduce the burden of dependence, but most importantly, they also add to the innovation and the creativity that is a mosaic of our collective thinking and synergy. We are not just voters, but also leaders and decision makers, and we too know something that can make a difference in our society. As someone who has been at the forefront of advocating for the rights of persons with disabilities, I know firsthand the challenges that persons with disabilities face in political engagement. These challenges range from societal stigma to the lack of awareness within political structures. With this manual in place, we are not only identifying the barriers, but also offering practical solutions. I am extremely happy, and I congratulate the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, Madam Anne Derito, Dr. Anne Derito, for inviting all of the stakeholders, na leo mmekuja kwa wengi kabisa, including the organizations of people with disabilities. This is an embodiment of true inclusion, and indeed, there is nothing about us. 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 This is a significant step towards achieving the full realization of the rights of persons with disabilities in the Kenya political space. This manual is powerful. Why? Because it encourages self-advocacy and promotes awareness of our rights, but most importantly, inspiring us as persons with disabilities to demand our rightful place without that feeling of shame or asking for permission. By using this resource, we can find our voices and assert our role in shaping the Kenya's future. And so therefore then, what do we need to do? While today is only a momentary celebration of the milestone, it is also a call to action so that we turn the reality that is envisioned in the text, in the script, in the typesetting, in the organization of the material therein, to ensure that we breathe life into it. I urge political parties, civil society, and all of the stakeholders present to take this manual seriously, not just another addition on your shelf. We must integrate it into our political party structures and speak its language and become the new convertees of this new gospel. The government is committed to continuing the support towards the inclusion of persons with disabilities, and that is why in my office I have inclusive communication and development program that we are partnering with to ensure that we amplify the voices and ensure advocacy of persons with disabilities. In conclusion, today we are taking a significant step towards a more inclusive Kenya. The political party's Persons with Disabilities Manual is a beacon of hope and a reminder that when we work together, we can create a society where everyone, regardless of their abilities, can contribute to the political, social, and economic fabric of our nation. Let us commit ourselves to the principle of equality, dignity, and inclusion. Let us ensure that persons with disabilities have a seat at the table. And as it was said here, if you are not at the table, you are on the menu. Let our voices be heard and our contributions be meaningful and valued, and that our rights be respected. Thank you, and may this manual inspire us to build a more inclusive and just Kenya for all. To love persons with disabilities is the greatest extent or exemplification of patriotism and nationhood. Kenya itasimama. Kenya itainuka. Kenya itanawiri kwa umoja na uzalendo. Mimi ni Mkenya mzalendo. Je, wewe? Asanteni. Now, we learn through stories. Hiyo ni ile picha nimeandikiwa hawa watu wa OGS. Wacha niseme yangu ya moyo kwa dakika 5, alafu sijui kama tutakuwa nikikata keki tukizimbua hii ama ni karatasi tutakata tu hivi, lakini Tim Anderito anatuambia hapo. I was born 42 years ago in Kiambu County at Kiambu District Hospital to a very poor family that my mother, who really was a casual laborer at Hindi in Roiro, couldn't really understand what albinism is. She tells me that at some point she used to work at her uncle's shop in Gara, in Parklands, I beg your pardon. And some Asian kids used to come and buy sweets from shop. And she used to pray to God that she gives her a child who is of a white skin, but not a Muhindi. But little did she know that she would get a child with albinism. And when my father saw me, said, no, we don't get like this in our family, who look like a pig. And he took off. So I grew up without one, my brother and I, who is older, yet I had a dream. I had a dream that one day I would be the first member of parliament with albinism in this country. At the age of 5, when I went to Thika School for the Blind, because that was the only school that I could go to, I remember doing something very interesting. We had a class prefect. This class prefect, the role of the class prefect then, maybe even as now, is to register those who are making noise. And we are given something we used to call a monto. So this girl called Nelly Modoni, I don't know where she is nowadays, was the biggest noise maker. But then she could not report herself. I felt that was injustice. So what did I do? I organized a way that there could be evidence that actually she was making noise, and put things on top of the table, bottle tops, bean bags, if you remember them, and the building blocks. She came and spread them all over because she was a bit chaotic. And we shouted loudly that the class was messy. The class teacher came, asked us what was going on. We said it is her. We reported her. She was removed as prefect and I was made one. The rest is history. But it's that sense of justice that makes leaders. We are all here from various political parties, both big and small. From the civil society, students, the media. Our role is to ensure that that person with disability is respected and can exercise his rights on an equal basis with others. At the age of 6, a brother to my grandfather, and English does not do us justice because that's my grandfather. I wouldn't call her brother to my grandfather. That's a problem of interpretation. Would actually tell my grandmother, and this boy is very talkative and inquisitive. One day he will be a politician. But my grandmother, maternal grandmother, wouldn't hear none of that because herself and my mother at some point were casual laborers at the local MP's shamba. So how could their own child, who is born different, who looks different, become unequal to their employer or something similar? Yet I had a dream. A very argumentative child, very inquisitive, and that explains my journey. Primary school, being a prefect, high school, being a head student, and also being a good public speaker nationally when I was in Standard 8, but also in Kiswahili. That's why maybe God helped me to become a spokesman. But also joining now student politics at KU and leading strikes there, by the way. And even causing regime changes over once upon Vice Chancellor called Jaji Shwani. Myself and Gladys Wanga, current governor of Homa Bay and chairman of ODM, are culpable of having done that. Was it a coup? Maybe. And so, that is how leaders are nurtured. In the midst of rejection, being admitted to Starehe, but then not getting the place because it's an injured child. Let me tell you, at the age of 22, I was appointed as a board member of the National Council for Persons with Disabilities 20 years ago. That's how we started the National Council, from scratch. I was only a student at the university. I had not even graduated, a third-year student, actually. That's how we started, pushing, because I was active in the civil society. I became, and I was a student leader, elected by the others, students, to represent them. In fact, I won by 1 vote, so every vote counts, my good brother and sister. And then because of standing out in meetings like these ones, then I was able to be appointed one out of 8 people across the nation. That's how I joined government. Yeah, you hear people wanting to be board members. And then 2 years later, again because of this civil society activism and working with Leonard Cheshire Disability International, I had CDSK there. I just finished my term as a board member there. Then I was referred to someone who wanted to do a film on albinism, where I featured as an aspiring politician called Lupita Nyong'o, who introduced me to the father Anyang' Nyong'o. That's how I joined ODM. When I joined ODM, I agitated for people with disabilities. That's why we created the first Secretary for Disability Affairs. But let me tell you, it was not easy. People would shake my hand, and then they would wipe it like this, because they thought albinism was contagious. I remember one time, was when I was raising my hand to speak. You know, I was wearing like somebody from the village. with an oversized coat and some boots there that was mismatching. I looked funny with a huge godfather there. The then MP for Ugenya, the late Archbishop Stephen Ondiek, told me to put my hand down because people like me are not supposed to speak in such a meeting. But I braved it. So much so that by the time I left that political party, I had not only ensured that PWDs are members of the Kijiji village, those of ODM, you understand that, all of the way to the neck, but I also ensured that the 2007 manifesto had a whole chapter on people with disabilities. And by the time I left, I was also a member of parliament, and I was the one who was at some point reading press statements on behalf of the CORD coalition from somebody who was being told to shut up and keep quiet. That is what you need to do. Don't give up because today your political party is small. Who knows tomorrow it may get a strong party leader and win several seats and you could be a member of parliament. Who knows? It could be that party that will form a coalition and form a future government in place. Possibly a future government that will have a presidential candidate who can win, who has a disability. It's not easy. It's not easy because politics is not for the faint-hearted. I joined politics at that age of 24. So I have been in this game now for the last 10 years. And I can tell you, in 2006, when you come to party primaries, and that is why we are coming up with that bill, I have contested twice in Roiro. And because I knew that having albinism may be used against me, because when you pronounce it in Kikuyu, it sounds funny, Maura Arobino. Now, who wants to vote for somebody who is called Maura Arobino? It is a dissenting language. I can't, you know, that kind of thing. Those are the things. But I came up with a political name called Mudongo Waruiro. Mudongo, the white man of Roiro. That one sold. In fact, it's more popular than the name Waura. I did a survey in the last election. 99% of the people in Roiro knew that name, and 91% knew Isaac Waura. You have to be creative to overcome your own barriers. Because it's the first time that people are interacting with me. Now, nomination slots are very important. Because why not for a nomination slot? By the way, for your information, I was to be nominated in 2007, but then because of the way the elections happened, I failed, but then I became an advisor to the Prime Minister in 2010. And then I tried again to go through Yala. I was a 9 in the list out of the 15 who had to go to Parliament, but then my name dropped because they knew if I went to Parliament, I would have easily won. Then, as God had timed it, I got it in 2013. It is out of that nomination slot that today Kenya knows Isaac Mwaura. So these affirmative action positions are extremely important for marginalized groups of people. However, I want to say this. I am a product of civil society. I am a product of this activism. It is more valuable for you as an activist under UDPK, under whatever caucus that you are from. When you join parliament, you have already been baked enough to become a good legislator of people with disabilities. It is not enough to have a person with disability in a position. It takes some mettle, some activism, some vision for there to be realized some change. One may ask, what is the value of people with disabilities in parliament? Fair enough. When I was there for 10 good years, I can count several things that I was able to do. Because, Madam Anne, we are not just talking about political participation. We are talking about meaningful and quality representation. You may not be able to change everything because for thousands of years, persons with disabilities have seen to be the wretched of the earth. In fact, they are represented as people who are begging alms. I myself have been caricatured as such because we are always seen to be undeserving. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you today, there is agency, there is value, there is indeed capacity when you are given a chance to represent those who look like you yourself. When I was in parliament, now we have a whole program of people with albinism that they get free sunscreen every month from the government. It was never there before. Because I knew the issues. And that program has been cited as the best model the world over. When I was in parliament, I ensured that persons with disabilities are represented in all the CDF committees up to the national level so that they can be there where the money is being shared. There are so many of you who at some point were CDF members. It is because of my legislation. When I was in Parliament, I ensured that the AGPO, this procurement, also we have a share for people with disabilities. And that all the board of management in all of the schools have a representation of special interests, most of whom are people with disabilities. And increasing the budget of people with disabilities from a mere 250 million to 1.2 billion under the National Council at that point in time. I can go on and on and on, and soon I will be launching my reports of both being an MP and a senator. But I want to tell you, when you have a visionary leader who has walked the journey with you, they will always be able to go as an errand boy or girl and get something for their own community. Because politics is really nothing else than people sharing a carcass. How much you can eat is up to you, but don't eat all of it, carry it, and take it to your people, the one that sent you there. Are we together? It is a competition for resources. And people with albinism, people who are deaf, people who are physically disabled, people with intellectual disability, all forms of disability, autism, Down syndrome, even them, they have needs that need to be met at the political table because they too are Kenyans and they are deserving. However, power is never given. Power is taken. Don't just think you are going to prostitute your disability there and doors will open. Sometimes they want you to be there so that you look like they are representative. But when you start talking, they think you are a threat. By the way, your disability will always be used against you. Don't cower. It is part of the game. It is the hazard of the game. Use it positively. So nowadays, people make a lot of jokes about me online. Oh, huyo Mwaura tumemwachia jua. Or you think I don't see these things? So the other day, because I said, sasa tumewachia jua kali. Then I posted a photo of myself and jua kali. Now then they said, we need red sun. You know, those are some of the things. You've got to develop thick skin. Don't be a crybaby. If you come into these elections and contestations, it's not for the faint-hearted. Are we together, my people? You will lose elections and almost get into depression. But you must keep on fighting. Madam Anderito will tell you here how I was removed from Senate and the battles we fought until I was able to be reinstated by the courts. And I was done and dusted. People have dismissed me. I have been expelled from 2 political parties, ODM and Jubilee. Because when you stand up and speak and show that you have the capacity, as a person with disability, you intimidate so many people because they think you are there to be helped, yet you are becoming a challenge and a threat. Don't cower. You too are entitled to it. They may fight you, but eventually they accept that you are there on equal terms as others. Never shy away from getting to show your talents, because many people will want you to look like you have nothing to show for it. Know when to attack, when to retreat, when to speak, when to be, a bit adamant, and when also to negotiate. Those are skills that you get. I want to say that it takes a long time to develop good leaders. If I look at Raila Odinga, if I look at William Ruto, at least 25 years to have a leader of a national stature. Even us, those with disabilities, it takes even much more longer for us to be well cooked, if you like, so that we can stand up as national leaders. Nowadays, when I speak, I don't speak for disability, per se. When I speak, it is the government speaking. And that government, that face and mouth of government has disability. Don't you think that's a communication coup? From being the voice of the voiceless, from being a pariah and almost like outcast, to becoming the mainstream voice of a whole government. It is possible. It can be done by good brothers and sisters. And we can learn more from the struggle and the fight of women's empowerment. I was telling the registrar, now when I go to these primary schools and secondary schools, not it's something that I can celebrate as a man, but the people who are speaking more are the girls. Don't you agree? They are the ones who are stronger and better. I think women have failed in mentoring young people. We must accept there is a masculinity deficit. But it is because that women for the last 30 or so years have been fighting for their own inclusion. And I want to tell you, in the last election, we had a woman who almost became a vice president as a running mate. I want to tell you, it's a matter of time. There is going to be an avalanche of women in leadership. It's just a matter of time. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that we people with disabilities, both men and women, we must be consistent and persistent in our struggle. Sometimes we may not win, but eventually we are still making a mark forward. At the UDA party, which I helped to start, I was a founding member, and that's why I was expelled from the Senate. I started that party from scratch, for example, in Ruiru, and registered people, opened 2 offices, had 4 permanent members that I was paying. Some of the people that are here, you know very well. And still, when we went to the nominations, something happened there that was not very good. Sometimes when you have these manners that Madam Anne, we try to teach ourselves here, they don't quite apply in the rule of the jungle that is politics. So when you go to the nominations, it's like going to a motura joint with a fork and knife with your manners when people are using their bare hands. I don't know how much you can eat from it. So you have to also, you have also to be street smart, huh? Yeah, you have to be. That's how it works. Sometimes it's very Machiavellian. But I'm happy because there are people with disabilities who have also been elected, and they are successfully serving the country. What I would want to urge political parties to do, though, if you have a strong aspirant with disability, and you know that they can actually win the seat if given your ticket because it is popular in a certain region, give that person a direct ticket. That is how women have been empowered in Nyanza region. Give them a direct ticket. That is how we ended up with Martin Wanyonyi, who was given a direct ticket by Ford Kenya. Otherwise, if he had been subjected to a nomination, possibly they would have cockudled. It is the only way that you can affirm leaders who, it takes a lot of courage, by the way, as a person is to stand up and be counted. So you can imagine somebody who people don't want to greet, to be the one that has been most greeted in a constituency because you are looking for votes. And when we talk about disability inclusion, we are dealing with what we call hidden biases. Because attitudinal barriers are not visible. So if somebody has a negative attitude against you, they will not show it to your face, but it will count when you go to the ballot. And I can see Daniel is agreeing. Those are very hidden, and they are ingrained, and they are systemic, and they have been there longer. They are generational. That is why, for example, you find in a room, somebody, the leader is a female, but they are addressing the deputy who is a male, because people have been wired to think that males are the leaders. It's the same case with people with disabilities. Sometimes even when you hear somebody with disability talking, and he's a leader, people are making noise, because they don't think they are talking something serious. So we have a long way to go. And what is a long way? To provide evidence to the contrary, that we too can count. So I want to say that this is very momentous, because it crystallizes our experiences and shows that indeed persons with disabilities can rise from the margins and become the powerful force that can make change. Maybe this is what we have been looking for. This is what we've been looking for. That the bad governance that is shown from all of the way can be remedied if we have more people with disabilities in positions of leadership. I am grateful that you found it fit for me to be the chief guest, the keynote speaker, and let's walk the journey so that we can create many more auras across this nation, so that that quantum can be significant enough to ensure that the barriers that people with disabilities face are actually brought down. I thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much. It's now time, the peacefully, beautifully pieced together publication, the Political Education Training Manual for Persons with Disabilities. It is now ready for unveiling. At this point, I will call my sister, Beatrice Nderi, to come over so that we run this matter together. Let's do it together. 7, 6, 4. That has been the Political Education Manual. Let's celebrate together. It's not fire, so it's fine. It's fine. I will use my team to distribute the copies. Let's distribute the copies, please, my team. have a transcribed copy of the manual. And the registrar will hold a transcribed copy of the manual so that we display for the guests. The other guests, please remain seated. Their copies will be distributed as we launch. Let's do this.
It's the manual to Braille, and it's the one that the guest is holding.
The guest has already assumed the position. The position. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's take that position and show the manual.
And you will be given your copy where you're seated.
Thank you. Let's celebrate. Let's appreciate. Let's take the photos. Let's take the group photos. Let's celebrate a little bit. All I require for life, God has given me, and I know who I am. We are the chosen generation, all for show His excellence. All I require for life, God has given me, I know who I am. What He said I am, where He says I'm at, I know who I am, I know who God says I am. What He said I am, where He says I'm at, I know who I am.
I don't know whether what Anastasia told us is what is inside the book. Can you all confirm? Yeah, thank you so much.
I'm working in power, I'm working miracles, I live a life of favor.
You can, the team guys will try to do the prayer in the best way we can. Let's see. But if you have a copy, so for us you can confirm using the original copy. Thank you very much. Let's see.
Chief guest, is it the same material that is in the other book?
Very well. Thanks for that confirmation.
Dr. Isaac Maura, the government spokesman, we want to express our deep appreciation and distinguished, we recognize you as a government spokesperson as well as a distinguished champion for persons with disabilities. Senator, we want to confirm by giving you that medal that your unwavering commitment to advancing the rights of PWDs and your own journey as a person living with disability continues to inspire all of us. Your leadership sets an example of how inclusion should be at the heart of a nation's progress. Thank you for your insightful and motivating words today. I would also like to thank all the representatives of political parties for your commitment and for being part of this process. We will walk this journey together and we recognize the contribution of political parties to the inclusion of PWDs. I would also like to thank all our partners, very many of them who have been represented here today, and I cannot name you all by names, but I want to say that your collective efforts are invaluable in shaping a more inclusive political system in Kenya. A special mention of gratitude goes to Hans Sidel Foundation for your support in the development of this manual. Your collaboration has been instrumental in ensuring that this resource becomes a comprehensive tool for empowering PWDs to participate actively and meaningfully in politics. To the RPP team, we always celebrate you. Your hard work and dedication in seeing this project through to completion is commendable. Thank you very much. This manual from the Sidelines to Center stage is a reflection of the commitment of RPP and its staff to making sure that PWD in Kenya have the knowledge and skills they need to advocate for their rights and engage in political process. Lastly, to everyone who is here today, guests, participants, partners, thank you for your engagement and support. Let's carry this momentum from today forward, ensuring that inclusion of persons with disabilities remain a priority in all our political and civic activities. Thank you all once again, and may you have safe journey back home. May God bless all of you. Thank you very much. And we will close with a word of prayer. This time from